And welcome to another episode of Wrestling Collector's Zone. Today I wanted to start off with a video on, I figured like I could maybe do a small series of this, of like top 5s or top 10s. And the first one I want to start off with was top 5 of my favorite single wrestlers of today versus the 90s or early 2000s. Like, make a list of each of those. And I guess I could go ahead and start off with my list of the 90s / early 2000s, which I'll start off with number 5 was Mick Foley / Cactus Jack, Dude Love Mankind. Mainly the Cactus Jack character. As a pro wrestler, he sacrificed a lot for the fans. And I mean a lot. He took hard bumps since the beginning of his career. He used to take bumps flying off the side of the ring, like probably about 15-20 feet out and onto pure cement. It was just, he went through death matches. He was the 95 King of the Deathmatch winner. He did everything he could do to entertain his fans. And he always made sure that his fans were entertained. I got to meet him in I would say mid 2000s, maybe 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, when he started doing his stand-up comedy show. And he is a really nice guy. And he just wants to make sure that his fans go home entertained. He did everything he could to sacrifice his body. Now he's retired, but he sacrificed so much of his life for his fans, and I would say that's why he made my top 5 list. Unfortunately, I didn't put them in any specific real order, because if really we're talking, he should have been higher up the list. But it's hard when you're listing off like 5 favorite wrestlers. What order should they really go in? Anyways, on to number 4 of the 90s, early 2000s. Was Vader, or Big Van Vader. He was a great big man wrestler, over 400 pounds. He was brutal. He would beat the crap out of his fans, or his opponents. He was he played that very vicious wrestler gimmick, kind of, that he even, at one point powerbombed Cactus Jack out on the cement, on the bare floor, stuff like that. And just overall in the ring, he was great. He could do moonsaults. He was a great big man wrestler. I got to meet him just a few years ago, right before he passed away. And he was a really nice guy. It was unfortunate that he passed away with his whole health issues. But he was a really nice guy overall. And just overall, he was a great wrestler. He'd just get in there and brawl and could do all sorts of stuff. It wasn't just, it wasn't just that he could be on pro wrestlers, and it wasn't that he could just get in the ring and, be and do brawling. He could do literally, a big man his size could get up and do a moonsault off the top rope at over 400 pounds. He wrestled in Japan. He had some pretty rough matches in Japan. And there was the one match where he was wearing a mask And literally, I can't remember what happened if his eye socket had got broke or something, but literally you could see underneath the mask, his eye really did pop out of the socket, and he had to push it back in. But the thing was, he continued the match. They didn't stop the match. He continued the match because he wanted to make sure his fans got what they came for. Let's go to number 3, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was one of my really all-time favorites when I was a kid and a teenager. Just one of those, rebel, give me a hell yeah, Austin 316. He was, his feud with Shawn Michaels, especially before WrestleMania 14, was really entertaining. And with the whole, they brought Mike Tyson in, and he had a feud going on with Mike Tyson as well. But I was a big fan of his back then. He did have some pretty good matches, and the man was just great on the mic overall. He could really, control the crowd with that when he got on the mic. Now I'm getting down to number 2 and number 1. These two, I can't specifically say in which order are my favorite, because they were always my top 2 favorites. So I just went ahead and put it in this way. Number 2 was Bret Hart. I always had loved Bret Hart as a wrestler. He was great in the ring, great on the mic. He had great matches with Stone Cold, with Shawn Michaels, all that. Just overall, with Bret Hart, he was a great wrestler. As he said, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And I will go by that he is literally one of the best there was. And then number 1 is Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes, honestly, he was the greatest wrestler that had lived. He could control the crowd. He got along with the crowd. He was the baby face. He was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And he literally was one of the best wrestlers. He could brawl. He was in the territory days. He had just some amazing matches. He had cage matches, Texas death matches, all sorts of stuff like that. And just overall, he was an amazing wrestler, and I always loved watching him in the ring. Alright, now let's get to the list of today. And this will probably, I guess, be focused more on really current, but could honestly be within the last 10 years or so. But my number 5 is, although he would probably be higher up the list too, and I had met him at a show as well before he had went to WWE, is AJ Styles. AJ Styles is a really great high flyer. He was great in TNA Impact Wrestling, but once he left, that was the thing. It sucked not seeing him on TV anymore when he had left Impact, but I feel like that's where he soared the most. Then he ended up signing a deal with WWE, which I feel was really unfortunate that he did do that. Honestly, he would have been better off staying like a free agent. He was literally one of the hottest free agents there could ever be in the history of wrestling. When he became a free agent and he went to New Japan, back to Ring of Honor, everything, he put on one hell of a show every time he stepped in that ring. And Impact, I think he did too. But I feel like in Impact, there was so much bad going on in Impact. towards the end of his time in Impact, that I feel like they were just draining his soul and the love of the sport of wrestling from him. That you could see it not like in his matches, that his matches were really starting to hurt somewhat. And then just once he hit New Japan and Ring of Honor, some of the most amazing matches you will ever see. Let's go with number 4. Number 4 has to be Will Ospreay. The only matches I've really seen, I've seen a couple matches of his and some independent companies here and there, but I've mainly seen his stuff in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he is an amazing high flyer. And he has been the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, I think, a couple times. He is just like overall an amazing wrestler, high flying. He could get in there and wrestle with the best of them, whether it's someone that is smaller, more his size, kind of back and forth, fast paced, or when he had gotten the ring with Walter. And Walter and him just beat the crap out of each other and went back and forth, back and forth. They put on amazing matches, and just overall, Will Ospreay, he has so much potential, and I'm curious to see where he's going to end up in his career. I'm curious to see where Will Ospreay is going to end up in his career at. Will he ever decide to move to one of the bigger promotions like WWE or AEW, or will he strictly stay with New Japan Pro Wrestling and do, other independent shows as well? Number 3 would have to be Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega, great wrestler. In the past, he had been in WWE, and I wasn't a fan of his then, but I didn't watch WWE that much anyways, towards that point. But Kenny Omega, when he was in WWE before, they had just misused him so badly. And then he, was released and went back on to the independent scene and put on some crazy good matches. And then once he started getting the call from New Japan, he started wrestling from New Japan on a normal basis. And at one point became the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. He held quite a few different titles over there. He was at one point like the head of the Bullet Club. And just overall, his career took a complete 180. It was his career when he was in WWE. They honestly had really misused him and basically almost drove his career down into the ground. And then it just took a complete 180 once he hit Japan and the independent scene, to where people really started seeing the potential he had in the ring. He can, high fly, do technical wrestling, all of that. Overall, Kenny Omega, he's just a great wrestler and has so much potential. So that's why he's my number 3 on today's favorites. Number 2 could be considered on either list, but he's still currently wrestling, so I put him on today's list, which is Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has always been an amazing wrestler. He has so much potential. He's wrestled for ECW in the early 90s. WCW, he wrestled for WWF, WWE. He's wrestled in New Japan. In the 90s, he wrestled in one of the earlier Super J Cups. He's overall just a great wrestler, and he is one of my favorites, regardless whether he is a heel or a face. he just always can put on a great show. And I had read like his first, like now he has like 3-4 books out. But I have read, the only one I had read was his first book. And it's just reading his beginning of his career and what happened and took place was so interesting that I suggest you go, if you can get a hold of it and read it. I think it's Around the World in Spandex or something like that. It's called, if you look it up, it's by Chris Jericho. And that's his first book. And then number one, again, I'm not a big fan of WWE whatsoever. I very rarely ever watch WWE just because I'm not a fan of them. I feel their storylines are most times horrible, or they start off great and then they just destroy them themselves, and it's awful. But Finn Balor, and it's more so the Demon Finn Balor version, but Finn Balor overall, he is just a great wrestler, and I love Finn Balor. He is an amazing wrestler, has so much potential, but unfortunately, again, I feel like he's gonna be one of those situations and one of those casualties. He ended up with a WWE contract, and they're gonna misuse him and not know how to use him, especially because he's not one of those big buff guys, but one of those more high-flying, hard-hitting Impact guys. Somewhat good, and he's held some of the world titles, NXT world title, but I feel like when it comes down to it in the end, they're gonna end up really putting a darker shadow on his career, and I just hope that he does make it out of WWE and ends up at another company that could really use him, like maybe AEW, or even him returning back into like the independents and in New Japan Pro Wrestling, because he really soared when he was in New Japan Pro Wrestling too. And in the Bullet Club, he just had amazing matches then. But that's it for my top 5 of today versus the 90s, early 2000s. Comment below if you want. Let me know your top 5s, favorites, whatever. Or if you have suggestions on top 5 lists that you might want to see, or you just have any questions at all. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you get notifications when my videos go live. And again, thanks for stopping by and checking this video out. This was another episode of the Wrestling Collector Zone, and you guys have a great night.